Lawmakers in Newark are worried a detention center reopened by ICE officials to house immigrants could be in violation of local and state laws.
Well, it happened again. Another Democrat elected official, this time the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, is getting very close to that line of obstruction. The Trump administration says if you cross over that line, you could be arrested.
Lawmakers in Newark are worried a detention center reopened by ICE officials to house immigrants could be in violation of local and state laws.
Now, that hall is a private for-profit facility with room for more than 1,000 people. Mayor Ras Baraka says that ICE renovated Delaney Hall without the proper work permits, inspections, and certificate of occupancy, and this poses some safety risks. So he has filed a complaint in county court.
Now, this is where we get very close to that line, and if you cross the line, we know what the Trump administration could do. Understand, the mayor of Newark waited till after all of the renovations were done to all of the sudden make a complaint and say, nope, you have to stop. I have to go in that building. I have to make sure everything is up to code, but I also have to bring a protest.
In our state, no fear, no hate, no ICE in our state, no fear, no hate, no ICE in our state. Well, along with love each day, take a stand throughout the land.
And one of his staff members was physically detained at one of the front gates.
So why don't the fire officials go to the front? They won't let y'all know they want. You can come through any entrance, anybody come through. No, I understand the question. I know, I understand.
You have to move away from your car and not on the phone.
We need you to get out the gate. Go out the gate.
We're going to stand against it as much as we possibly can, using the letter of the law to do so. The problem is they're not listening to the law. They're not listening to the Supreme Court. They're not listening to federal courts. They're not listening to Superior Court here in New Jersey. So, it puts us in a precarious situation.
Now, Republicans are firing back because this is a situation where ICE went out of their way to create a detention center in which they won't flood the local prison systems and flood the local sheriffs with more people in their jail systems. But nope, there is still a complaint.
So, these are the kinds of institutions across the country that are being utilized for the purpose of processing people at this point. We know that people want to see people processed, and this would be a holding facility. Tell me what your take is on this debate.
I mean, the hypocrisy is real here, Martha. So what do they want? I mean, I'm going to ask them the question. Do you want us to have facilities so that these illegals can have due process, even though they have administrative orders?
Now, I think you're going to enjoy this. Before we get back to the mayor of Newark, look what MSNBC had to say about deportations and due process.
We have what's happened in Venezuela, but then we have general deportation. That's what I'm talking about right here.
Yep. So federal law allows for even broader and speedy removal than has been used in the past. And expedited removal, as you talked about, allows for summary removal. That means no entitlement even to a hearing, possibly within 24 hours. It hasn't been used as broadly as, say, the Trump administration might want to use it, but under the statute, it is permissible to remove aliens who arrive at the border and even those who have been here for 2 years, although that 2-year provision you talked about is the lesser used in practice. But just because it isn't used very often doesn't mean it's not a part of federal law that can be used.
I don't think that guy is ever going to be allowed back on MSNBC ever again. He just broke the whole Democrat narrative as far as this due process. Now, I'm going to circle back to the mayor of Newark because this is how he feels about due process, and this is how he feels about everybody in his community.
First, we have to obviously protect the Constitution of the United States. You can disagree with me on immigration policies. You can disagree that immigrants in New Jersey provide $1 billion or more worth of state and local taxes to our community, who keep our economy going. We can have a debate about that. The facts are the facts, but the reality is violating people's Fourth Amendment rights. We all should be opposed to that. We should all be opposed to undermining due process. Everyone, no matter who you are, Republican, Democrat, Independent, should stand together in defending the Constitution of the United States.
All right, so I hope you caught that. The mayor of Newark seems to be very knowledgeable in the Constitution and wants to protect the rights of everyone in his community. Well, that would mean an expedited process as far as due process for an illegal immigrant. Now, when you start to mess or tamper or try to slow down a facility in which there are illegal immigrants, you start to slow down that due process, and again, you start to cross that line where you could get in trouble.
This is the thing that makes this country different than any other country around the world, a Bill of Rights. So we cannot allow the slippery slope to begin, which Trump has already begun. We have to push back against that. And so we have to protect folks in our community. We have to protect those who are documented and those who are undocumented. Everybody in this country, unless you are a Sioux or Arawak or the Blackfeet, at some point you were undocumented, and or your family members were undocumented. And so it's important for us to protect due process more than anything else. And that's what governors need to do. Protect the Constitution, protect the courts, protect due process.
Now, this is where things get very serious. Tom Homan, the border czar, just put this very serious warning out to anyone, to include elected officials, if you're going to possibly obstruct ICE.
Tom Homan was asked about me in this guidance after he apparently threatened to arrest elected officials across the country. He said, "Wait till you see what's coming." As disgusted as I am about the continued actions of the Trump administration, I'm not afraid. I've never once been discouraged from doing the right thing, and I will not start today.
What's your response to that, Tom?
Well, there's no threat. What I simply said is wait what happens. I've said from day one, you can support sanctuary cities. You cannot support ICE if that's what you choose to do. But if you cross that line on impeding our law enforcement efforts or knowingly harboring and concealing an illegal alien from ICE, those are felonies, and we will seek prosecution. So, hopefully you don't cross that line, but it's not a threat. I've been saying since day one. There are laws on the books against impediment and knowingly harboring and concealing an alien, and we're going to seek those out that do that. I've arrested U.S. citizens for harboring and concealing aliens in their workplace or their home when I was an agent. Why should be a free-for-all for elected officials? So don't cross that line. I said from day one. We showed the judge. The judge wanted to play that game. We're prosecuting her. So anybody can be prosecuted for violating laws, including him. But it's not a threat. I'm just taking what the law is and what our intent is going to be.
So as you can see, Tom Homan is very serious, to include the Trump administration. The tone has completely changed. Once you can successfully go after a judge, and it looks like no Democrats are even sticking up for that judge anymore, once you can sue a state like the state of Illinois for obstruction or getting in the way of ICE agents, this becomes a very big deal, and this also gives more of an advantage to the Trump administration to know how to go after individuals who could be obstructing or impeding on ICE operations or deportations.
Or do you want us to just put them on a plane and ship them out? Here you have a mayor who's slamming opening up a facility, is obviously grandstanding because he is running for governor, and is getting in the way of us giving due process when they complain about it. It's unbelievable. So what would they prefer, them on the street or just get on the plane? You can't make it up. We don't know what they stand for anymore. All I can tell you is all they stand for is anything anti right now, anything anti the DOJ's efforts, ICE's efforts to come down on criminals who came in illegally. And it's got to stop. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. I know in Newark in particular, we have so much crime, gangs. I'm working there. I work there every day. We need to refocus taxpayer dollars on real things. This grandstanding needs to stop. It's a waste of time.
Now, I do want to make clear, you are allowed to sue the Trump administration. If you are the mayor of Newark or the city of Newark, you are allowed to sue them. But if the Trump administration can prove you are grandstanding or you are slowing down operations or you are doing this on purpose, it could become a very big problem.
And it will be used because it's permitted under federal law. The Congress, in its infinite wisdom, decided that aliens who arrive at the border, and they define people who arrive at the border as people who have even been here 2 years, if they have fraudulent documents, if they don't have sufficient documents, they can be removed in an expedited fashion unless they seek asylum. So you don't run into those due process concerns, at least presumably because that statute, as it exists today, is still valid. Now, that's not what's at stake with the Venezuelans and the Alien Enemies Act. But the government's argument is that, hey, court, listen, you're telling us we need to provide notice. Well, take a look at this federal law. It says that we don't even need to have a hearing. It can happen within 24 hours. So if that's good enough for people who arrive here who are aliens, it's certainly okay for people that the president has deemed to be alien enemies.
Now, when I was doing research for this video, I found this clip. I am really curious how you guys feel about this.
Newark is admitting it got scammed. Earlier this year, Mayor Ras Baraka invited who he thought was the Hindu nation of Kailasa to City Hall for a cultural trade agreement and to become sister cities. But it turns out Kailasa isn't a real nation, but rather the invention of a scam artist and fugitive who's from India, who's been on the run since 2019.
I have the immunity of non-prosecutable and immunity and protection as the head of the state.
He was arrested there years earlier, accused of sexual assault charges by 5 women who say he abused them at a religious retreat. Back in New Jersey, a few days after this ceremony, the city says it realized it had been deceived, calling it, quote, a regrettable incident.
Newark is admitting.
Again, I figured I would throw that video in here because I was looking to do some research about the city of Newark and about their mayor, and that was the first clip that popped up. Now, that was a very serious mistake. Now, I'm going to show you a video of the mayor standing in front of the facility, and here's what he has to say about the situation. Again, those protesters are also standing around him and a bunch of cameras.
Not true. The court is they wouldn't let us in yesterday, so we're here today trying to get in, and we're going to get in today.
Who do you believe is inside?
It doesn't matter who's inside. I think they may have detainees in there. They're not supposed to be in there. That's our position. Nobody's supposed to be in there. We've allowed the courts to negotiate this when there was no detainees in the building. It was just workers, GO, and us. ICE don't have a long-term lease with these folks, so GO is completely responsible. They're hiding behind ICE right now. Keep telling our folks that ICE has to give us permission to get in, which is completely not true. The fire officials can go into any building anytime they want to do any inspections. They're not allowing them in. I wasn't here yesterday. The fire officials and UCC code officials were here yesterday. They wouldn't let them in, so now I'm here today.
And how did you get a tip that there might be someone inside?
One of the security workers here told us that somebody was inside. Then we ran across a individual, a woman at the press conference, told us that she ran into somebody whose wife was in here, and then we searched that guy down and had a conversation. So we know for a fact that people in here.
Alright, so if you are still watching this video, I really do appreciate it. This is a developing story, so make sure to like and subscribe so you can get updates on this. I am sure Tom Homan or someone from the Trump administration will be commenting on this very soon, because again, I truly do think we're getting into this weird area of abusing the law or possibly just trying to slow down operations. Do whatever you can to slow down ICE, to possibly disrupt operations or to get in the way of the due process that the mayor of Newark wants. Thank you for everything. We'll see you guys later. God bless.